Hi, it's Kallin, JB Racing. We did a tour showing the flywheel side, and we had some questions about why we walk past the airplanes. So we figured we'd do a tour of the airplanes. So behind me is a 1929 Lockheed Vega. When it's restored, it will be the oldest flying Lockheed. This particular airplane was the first ever executive interior airplane that Lockheed built. The airplanes before it were passenger or cargo. So this one has leather interior, fold-out desk, chemical toilet, fold-down lav, typewriter that has a spot for a typewriter inside. So inside here, you're looking actually from the firewall where the engine would be sitting. Pilot sits here, faces this direction. His head would be, or her head would be about this tall, but kind of up in here. The wing is up in here. You have 4 windows down the side. It's actually, this is where the wing would be, so you'd have a wing like this, top of the airplane. 4 windows down the side, passengers in the back. From here back is passengers, and from here forward is cockpit, single pilot. Pilot's feet actually come through the floor a little, through the firewall a little bit in some boxes, so it's pretty tight in there for the pilot. We're in the process now of restoring this for a guy in Lakeland, Kermit. Most of the metal in this fuselage is original metal. The wood we have replaced. The reason because of that, there was lots of bad repairs or damage or rot or just 90+ years of use. The wing and the tail are about 80% original. The wing is all original except for a couple pieces on the tip of one wing where it had been damaged in previous repairs. It's been reskinned, and most of it's really good in condition. It's ready to go on the airplane when we're ready for it. We're in the process right now of fitting the second skin on this airplane. So it has 2 skins on, 1 skin on each side, kind of like a Pringle chip on each side. We're kind of fitting that stuff up now to be able to bond it to the structure. There's pieces in here like this that will get glued to. This is the mold we made the skin out of, the skin on. Both sides of the skin are identical, so 1 mold is required. There's some other tooling and stuff that we would have for flipping the skin over, and some other things that are out there on YouTube already. So it's a long way to go on this project, but it's pretty cool to see the old airplane and all the cables and all that stuff. Some things we have machined in-house because there were some things that were missing from here. We do have a lot of original pieces in here, original castings. We have about 3,500 drawings for this particular series of airplanes. Some of the stuff we machined here in-house. We've got some little pieces here that were a casting originally and then machined. We machined this all out of billet in our Haas. So there's some other pieces here that have been, these pieces were gone. We had these machined out of a piece of 3.5-inch round bar, I believe it was. Originally this would have been a casting and then machined after the fact. This is machined from billet because we need 2. So we don't need a production line of those. Some other odds and ends and stuff that we've done over the years. This project started in about 2014 and was put on hold for a couple years and then came back online in about 2019. So the progress you see here is from 2019 to now here in 2025. The first 8 months to a year was designing, understanding drawings, making tooling. We didn't make hardly any parts of the first year. It was just making the tools to make the parts, and now we're making parts for this particular one airplane. So there's a lot of things to figure out. Still, that it's a never-ending project until it flies away. That's when the project stops. So it's just an evolving thing. So we'll go through here. There's an airplane in here. Since 1980, 81, we've restored about 100, more than 100 airplanes. I don't know the exact number. We've done, this is a Stearman, a PT-17. Stearman, we've done about 35 of those. Vega is the only one Vega we've done that's, there aren't any Vega projects. We've done Cubs, Stearmans, Stagger Wings, 6 Stagger Wings, Champs, Wacos, anything that's fabric with wooden wings, steel tube fuselage, and some metal airplanes we've done here and there. So it's kind of our niche area is the wood wing fabric airplane, like the Stearman here. This particular airplane is our personal airplane. My grandparents restored this in '72 as a hobby. Grandfather was working at an electronics company. This was the hobby in the garage. They restored it. My dad, I think, was like 5 or 6 years old, maybe 10, when they did the fabric on the fuselage. They sold this airplane in the early 80s to buy the piece of property in the airport we're currently on. And then that new owner wrecked it. We are now in the business of restoring airplanes, so it came back to us to repair. The husband, the wife of the guy who owned it, decided she would rather have a condo than an airplane, so we bought the airplane back. And then it kind of became the airplane that we would use, we would sell to you while we were doing your Stearman. You get your ground loop out of the way, you discover your Stearman guy, you learned it, and then we bought it back and you got your new one. And we did that 3 or 4 times, I think. And then it got parked. We sold the wings off of it to a customer, got parked. And in 2014, my grandmother said it needed to fly. She made the decree. So we took it down. Fabric is still original fabric, but we gutted the inside. We went through all the controls, all the systems, any repainting, any repairs to the fabric needed, new sheet metal, new motor, new propeller, new wings. The tail is the same tail was on it. Just been repainted. We repainted the fuselage. So it's been flying since about 2015 or so. I think, I've got about 100 and close to 200 hours in the airplane now since about then. So it's a fun airplane to fly. It's kind of like an old Harley where it's not practical to go anywhere, but it's really cool. It's loud. It's obnoxious. It burns oil. It smokes everywhere, but you're having fun. And it's just a totally different experience than in any kind of enclosed airplane. It's really cool. It's hard to take videos out of it because it's so loud. It just kind of messes with the shutter speed on the cameras, but it's pretty fun. So that airplane is my grandfather's airplane. This one next to us here is a family project. It's a 1954 D model Bonanza. Low time, we bought it as a family project in 2020, and it's been to that position right there. It took us a year, and it's been 3 years since we touched it. Life happens, and we'll get back to it. But there's going to be some cool stuff we'll do in there. We're going to be some machining some pieces to fix. Had a lot of chopping up inside, but it's going to be a cool airplane when we get there. We'll be making a panel. We'll make a new panel in here. We've repaired they call these piano keys. It has the switches in there, so I've repaired all this stuff down here, replaced it with what was supposed to be there instead of all chopped up, so it'll be all right coming forward up the top, and it'll be a cool, clean little airplane. Got motor going together for that, and got the original end number back instead of the one that was put on it in the 70s, so it'll have the original paint job, original end number, original piano keys, instrument panel, so it'll be pretty sweet. This particular airplane is a 1938, I think, Monocoupe, clip-wing Monocoupe, so it's a 110 special. This airplane was kind of in the early 30s, aerobatic, light aerobatic, but they had a racing class. Like Reno Air Races, it's pre-Reno, but they had a class for that. They take the 110, which is the normal model, and it has 9 feet taken off the wing, 185 horse engine on the front. The tail is a tiny, you can see the tail up there. It's very little, barely existing on the airplane. You go fast. That's all it's supposed to do is just straight fast, and that's all it does. The customer that has this has a couple other Monocoupes, and he loves them, so we're doing this for him. It's another one of those projects that just you do a little bit, and then you discover something else. And you do another thing, and it just day by day, and you just keep going and going. They're doing the stringers on it now, fitting the stringers up. It'll get a big piece of wood up in here to fair all this stuff out. This whole thing is fabric covered. Doors are here. and the motor's up on the front here. All this is sheet metal. So we're moving through there, making pieces a little bit at a time on that one here. So let's see. This is another family project. So we have lots of family projects. This is the Stearman N2S-1. So that Stearman there is a Army Stearman PT-17. It's exactly the same airplane, but for the Navy. So they can't have the same name. So this is an N2S, and that is a PT. Primary trainer, and I forget what the N2S stands for, but someone will correct me on that. Navy airplane. So this is what is inside that blue fuselage. So under the fabric and some other stringers is this square, round tubing square structure that everything is bolted to. That's the start of that whole project. Some ailerons up there, and then the shelf full of parts that are for that one project. This isn't everything, but kind of gives you an idea of how many little tiny pieces goes into one airplane. I think there's probably 3,000 parts for that one little airplane. And there's probably way more than that. Just top of my head, it's a lot. Little tiny trinkets. Machine shop. So when we started the Vega, this was not a machine shop. We had a manual Bridgeport was over here. There was a big bandsaw and some other little odds and ends. It was an open room. We did the Pitts Model 12 aerobatic biplane from 99 to 2016. And all of the kit stuff was produced in this building. Before that, before 99, this was a certified wooden propeller shop. So we did wooden propellers for Stearman's Cubs, all the antique airplanes. So in 2016, when we sold that business, we turned this building into building the Vega. So the Vega fuselage was built right here. From here to that wall, you can kind of see there's some glue on the floor, doing old wooden stuff. You just glue everywhere. So you kind of see the outline of where the fuselage used to be. And then later on, we put air conditioning right above it. So we built the fuselage right here. We skinned the first side here, and then we moved from here into the other side to turn this into the machine shop. We had a smaller machine here, TM2P from Haas, that we built some of the metal fittings on and everything while the fuselage was here. It's pretty tight. So now that we have that moved here, this is now a machine shop doing the flywheels and other related airplane parts or machine work that's not airplanes at all, just job shop work. So that's what happens in here for the most part. This other building is another hangar. It has some more airplane stuff in it. So this is kind of like a storage. We call this the East Hangar because it's to the east of the big hangar. So that's what we call this one. In the rafters are Stearman fuselages. So in the past, we would buy crop duster would be added. They decide to switch to some other airplane, Pawnee or something. They had surplus stuff. So we would go and buy the leftovers. And most of the time you had really good stuff. Sometimes there was just total junk. But it might be the best thing after a while. It might be what's left. So some of these, there's not as many as there used to be, but there's several that are up here. There's two that are green. Those have been through a jig that we have that de-dusters them. So it takes all the crop duster modifications and goes back to original stock so you can put it in your airplane. If your fuselage is damaged, it goes to there. So some of the other ones we've taken from somebody and sold them a good fuselage because theirs was too far. Now we use it for pieces and parts, and someone needs a welding project and they can diddle with that if they want because it may not be worth fixing. That's kind of what is left. For a while we had a full hangar full of those, and they slowly just get fixed and they sell off and come around. So there is some, well, let's see, it's kind of in a mess because we're through and moving, organizing and doing some of that. So the other thing in the hangar here is the wing for the 110 Special, the Monocoupe. So it is a pretty heavy wing. I want to say the wing weighs about 500 pounds, maybe. I don't know. It's pretty heavy. The spacings on the ribs are real tight. It's a very thick wing. You can see, so that the standard configuration is if I remember right, 9 feet longer. And I don't remember if it's total or 9 feet each side. So the other wing is quite a bit bigger. So this is for that airplane next door, the 110. You see the fuel tanks that are in here. This kind of cross section here is the window that's on top. So your head would be, would be upside down. Our feet would be at the ceiling, and we'd be sitting under this section here where the black tubes are. Left wing, right wing. Ailerons are back there. It's a kind of interesting mechanical push rod driven system. The early 30s design. So at the same time, so this is a 38. There was previous older versions that are similar to this. You look at the Lockheed Vega, and it was designed by, the wing was designed by Jack Northrop. Jerry Valtee was part of the fuselage design, Valtee aircraft. Richard Palmer, who later on designed Howard Hughes's H-1 and was part of the Spruce Goose stuff. Those guys were in their 20s, and they were geniuses at the beginning. They had so much knowledge that we have to figure out now, because they went from the beginning to they knew what was happening. We have to figure out what they knew, because it's different now. It's all digital. It's a totally different world. The same time the Lockheed was designed, this was being done. This design of this airplane is very barbaric compared to the Lockheed. The Lockheed was at cutting edge of everything. Everything about it was high tech. It was space age. You're going to make it wood. It was before space age. It was so cool. Castings, or they did their own castings. They did their own machining, all in one facility, all by themselves. They CAD plated. Everything was all there. It was pretty impressive what they could do in there. And they had 500 people working at the factory at one point. They built about 200 airplanes from 27 to 33, I think, which is a lot. I mean, it was several, probably one a month, probably. I don't know the math exactly, but it was quite fast. This is our S model Bonanza, my grandfather's airplane. 1964, IO 550. Yeah, IO 550, Continental 550. I don't know if it's IO or I don't know. Sweet airplane. My wife and I use it a lot. In-laws live in Memphis, so from here to Memphis is 3.5 hours. And nonstop, we can have me and my wife and the 2 kids in the back seat and put as much stuff that we can physically fit in the back, and we go. We don't have to talk to to take our shoes off to TSA. We just hop and go, and it's pretty nice. Here's the inside of it. Leather interior, autopilot. Got some little screens here. Of course, gotta have the iPad. Gotta know where to go. But you can kind of see the inside. It's pretty nice. Grandparents bought this airplane, I want to say 95, I think. It did not look like this at all. It had been left on the ramp at Orlando Executive Airport where my grandmother was working at the time. And they bought it from the estate, the guy who owned it. White airplane, totally weathered. Windows you could not see through. Hadn't been flown in probably 5 years, sitting outside or maybe more. My grandfather flew it here to our place here in Mount Dora. And the story goes, he landed with the storm window, which is the side window, the little one that's open there, looking through that window to land here because you couldn't see out the front clear enough to see the runway. So then they gutted the inside, gutted the landing gear off the bottom, different motor in it. 2001, it got a paint job. So this paint job's from 2001. Looks pretty good for 24 years. Yeah, is that 24 years? 2001 to 2025? Yeah, 24 years. 2015, got the 550. About that same time, got a new autopilot. It's a sweet airplane. So 174 knots true airspeed. 151 knots indicated. And about 12 to 16 gallons an hour, depending on power setting and leaning and everything. So it's pretty sweet. Yeah. That's about all that's in here airplane-wise. There's some other stuff, but this is kind of a quick little tour of this, and if there's any other questions, anything else we need to do on the video, would be shoot us a comment. Thanks for seeing it.